وبركاته. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على حي على الفلاح، حي على الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. وصلوات الله وسلامه عليه. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send his peace and blessings upon the last and final messenger, his family, his companions, his wives, and all those who follow his way until the end of time. And we remind one another to be people of taqwa. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, be conscious of Allah the way He deserves us to be conscious of Him, and do not die except in a state of submission, in a state of Islam to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask Allah to make us among them. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Amma ba'd. Hudayfa radiallahu ta'ala an, this noble companion, says that people would go to the Prophet والسلام, and ask him about the good. What can I do that is good? What are the good things in life? What are the good things in Islam? But Hudayfa radiallahu ta'ala an says that I would always ask the Prophet والسلام, about the bad, the evil, to protect myself from falling into that evil. And so the more we know about that which is bad, that which is harmful, that which is evil, the better choices, the better decisions we can make. Also, we can better understand the signs, the ways that lead to this bad. And as we continue discussing the theme of this month, as designated by our country, LGBT Pride Month, today, inshallah, I want to discuss with you all, as parents, how to have this conversation with your children. The fact of the matter is, we are living in a reality that we cannot ignore. Dear parents, do not ignore this. Do not think that you and your family are immune to this. We're not, period. No matter how religious you and your spouse might be, or no matter how irreligious, our children now in public schools are being exposed to the LGBT propaganda at a very young age, at the age of 5, 6, 7. And I encourage you all to go and look at the books that they are presenting and putting between the hands of our children. Imagine, I have a 4-year old, and just yesterday I was looking at him as he plays with other 4-year olds in the playground. And I'm thinking, there is an agenda out there to encourage my child to experience sexuality, to experiment his sexuality at the age of 5, the age of 6, the age of 7, showing them very explicit pictures. This is in our public schools. Every child of ours will be exposed to this. But as parents, we have our Islam, and Islam is wisdom. Islam is help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, inshallah, I'd like to present some tools, a few points that you all can use to have this conversation with your children. And no, the sooner you have this conversation, the better. If you can have the conversation with your children before the public schools, before Hollywood and these and social media has the conversation with your children, the better. And so point number 1, it is natural as parents, please realize it is natural for our children to be curious. They're hearing LGBT, they're seeing the flag, it's in the stores, it's everywhere. So it is a natural part of our children to ask questions, to want to understand more, to Google search what's going on here. And so if your child comes to you and says, "Oh, mom, oh, dad, what's LGBT?" do not panic. Do not, become anxious. Rather, you should be glad they asked you, because the fact that they asked you means they're interested in knowing what you have to say with in terms of this topic, not what other people have to say. So if your child comes and asks you about this, say Alhamdulillah. This is a golden opportunity that has been presented to you. Take advantage of it. And how I recommend undergoing this conversation, again, as a conversation. Don't lecture your children, have a conversation with them. How should we go about doing it? First, do not immediately answer the question that they have. Rather, ask them what they think about it. Ask them, okay, my child, you're asking me LGBT. What do you think about it? What are you hearing in school? What are you seeing in social media? You need to know what's going on in their minds. Because the more you understand what's going on in their minds, the more you know how to engage them. So ask them the question. What do you think about it? Have you heard anything about it in terms of Islam and talks online and YouTube and some of the shuyukh? Ask them and then continue the conversation and show them what Islam has to say about it. But if your child hasn't come to you and asked you about this, do not wait. Do not wait another day. They're coming after them. This is, they are very clear about this. Do not wait another day. And sit with your child and say, you know what? These past 3 weeks, the sheikh has been talking about LGBT, LGBT, LGBT. I have no idea what's going on. What's going on? Do you know what's going on? Why is the sheikh keep talking about this? Put the conversation in their hands so that they speak and then you respond. But you need to have this conversation. When we have the conversation with our children, we now have more influence on the way they interpret it. But if we sit there waiting and they reach the age of puberty and they've been bombarded with this topic for the past 10 years or so, then it's going to be increasingly difficult to influence the position of our children. So have the conversation. Do not wait. Point number 2, be balanced in the way you talk about this. Be balanced. Islam is a moderate, balanced, just religion. We're not on either side of the ideological extremes. We're not overly loose. Oh, it's okay. Things have changed. And, people accept this now. Love is love. No. The Quran said this is haram. This behavior is inappropriate, it is immoral, it is harmful, it is haram from the time the Quran was revealed until the day of judgment. That's not going to change. And so, as parents, we need our children to know this. It is haram. It always will be haram because Allah said so. But at the same time, don't go out on the complete opposite end of extremism to where you make it seem like if any question is asked about this or the child is struggling with it, that they have left Islam. In fact, I have heard parents saying the following. A parent said that my child has come out as gay. And he said, and I kid you not, he said, if my child were to have left Islam, that would be easier on me than him coming out as gay. No, leaving Islam is far worse. Kufr is far worse than same sex attraction, than homosexuality. Someone who is practicing this haram behavior is still a Muslim. But someone who leaves Islam, that is a whole nother level of disobedience to Allah. It's the highest level of sin against Allah. So be balanced. And part of that balance means when we talk about it, make it similar to how we talk to them about dating, about alcohol, about gambling. You know how dating is haram? You know how having intimacy with the opposite gender before marriage is haram? You know how drinking is haram? LGBT is haram. Practicing homosexuality is haram. Be balanced in the way you present it. Point number 3, our children need to know that Allah created us with desires. Our desires are natural. We all have them. That is Allah's wisdom and how He created us. It's part of the fitrah. And so we have desires for wealth. وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. You love wealth. And we have desires for food and drink. And there's a whole multi-billion-dollar industry about food and drink. We love going to restaurants. We love eating out. It's a desire. We have desire to love and to be loved. We have desire for companionship and affection. All of these are the way Allah created us. But what you find is that for each of these desires, there is a correct, healthy way of satisfying and gratifying those desires. And for each of them, there is an incorrect, unhealthy way for satisfying and gratifying those desires. We have the desire for wealth. And there are many halal ways to become wealthy. But there are ways that is incorrect. It is just because I desire wealth doesn't mean I can go to someone else's money and say, I desire that money, give it to me. It's not yours. That is an incorrect way of satisfying the desire for wealth. Food and drink. There are many halal foods and many halal cuisines. But Allah tells us, don't drink alcohol, don't eat pork, don't eat dead meat, don't drink blood. Why? Because it's unhealthy. Similarly, when it comes to love, intimacy, companionship, affection, there is a correct, healthy way in satisfying it and gratifying it. It's called marriage. And there's an incorrect way of doing it. Dating, intimacy outside of marriage, and intimacy with the same gender. So let your children know it is okay to have desires, but there is a good way to satisfy them. There's a bad way. There's a healthy way, an unhealthy way. There's a correct way, an incorrect way, and make the comparison so they know this isn't just an issue of my parents are backward minded, they're old school, they're coming from different countries. No, you accept this, oh my child. You accept it's not right to steal. You accept it's not right to drink alcohol. You understand that at least, dating isn't appropriate. And so similarly, LGBT is inappropriate in terms of our principles. Point number 4, there is the slogan you probably all heard. My body, my choice. Feminists throw this out, the topic of abortion, and LGBT uses this as well. My body, my choice. Islam has a different framework. Your body is the creation of Allah and the property of Allah. It's not yours. Allah entrusted you with your body. And thus, you have a responsibility towards preserving and maintaining that body. This is how life works. When you enter into a job, you have been entrusted with the responsibilities of that job. And there are things that you must do. And there are things that you should do. And there are things, if you were to do it, it's a betrayal of that trust. Well, this is how we view our body. Allah gave us this body. It's not yours. And there are ways of satisfying and taking care of this body Allah made obligatory upon us. Eat and drink, but don't overdo it. Don't eat and drink too much to where you harm the body. You don't have the right to cut off a limb. You know, in psychology, there is a mental illness where a person has a desire to cut off a limb. They classify this as a mental illness. Yet, yet, when a 12-year-old, 13-year-old wants to cut off certain organs of their body permanently to reassign their gender, that's perfectly fine. What a contradiction. So we have a body, it's not our property. And so it's haram to harm the body. It's haram to cut off parts of the body. It's haram to change the body. And similarly, when it comes to this notion of my body, my choice, we simply don't accept it. We have a responsibility we have been entrusted with when it comes to our body. And notice, this isn't just in terms of how we live life, it's also in religion. When companions would come to the Prophet and say, Ya Rasulullah, I fast every single day and I never break my fast. Another guy came and said, Ya Rasulullah, I pray all night and I don't sleep. And another guy said, I don't marry women. What was the Prophet's response? He said, as for me, my sunnah, I sometimes fast and I sometimes break my fast. I sometimes pray at night and I sometimes go to sleep at night and I marry women. Why? Because my body has a right over me and I must take care of it. And that requires balance. And so someone who is overly religious and prays too much and fasts too much is guilty of this. And so we need to be balanced. Teach your children this balance. You have a body, you have been entrusted with it. You don't have the right to do with it what you want. You've been entrusted with it. Don't betray that trust. And then the fifth point is Islam teaches us that we have a mind, we have a body, we have a soul. The West is now teaching us you are primarily a mind. What your mind says is what you are. I am a woman. Someone says, I'm a woman in a man's body. I'm a man in a woman's body. My mind says I'm this or I'm that. You have now people identifying as animals. I'm not kidding. You have people identifying as a wolf and demand rights of wolves. You are not just a mind, you have a mind. And Allah gave us responsibilities towards the mind. You also have a body, you also have a soul. A person who is healthy and happy is a person who is balanced in the way they take care of themselves. So they give their mind its nutrition and its sustenance. They give their body its nutrition and its sustenance. And they give their soul its nutrition and its sustenance. The soul needs ibadah, it needs worship. The mind needs contemplation and thinking, not being stuck in social media and looking at a screen for hours upon hours a day. Your mind needs to be well maintained, and your body needs its sustenance, it needs its food, it needs its sleep, it needs its drink, it needs its intimacy. This is the way Islam approaches it. But the West, time and time again, we constantly are imbalanced in the way we engage ourselves. We give one of them primary role and ignore the others. So you find that we used to focus here in the West on the body, and the mind became ill. Mental health problems are skyrocketed. Now they're focusing on the mind. About the mind, you're just a mind, you're a psychology, and they're ignoring the soul, they're ignoring the body. And you're going to find the problems and the illnesses that result as a result of this imbalance. Allah teaches us balance. So be like that. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah amma ba'd. For the sake of time, I encourage you all to rewatch this khutbah. It is being live streamed, and you can find it on our social media, our YouTube channel, OCIF TV. Share it with your family, share it with your friends, and hasten towards this conversation. Don't wait. Don't wait. But the factor of the matter is, this is a test that the entire West is being tested with. And undoubtedly, some families have already fallen into this test where their child comes out as gay. And undoubtedly, some of our children are going to come out and say, Mom, Dad, I'm gay. What do we do then? Well, we look to our prophets as our role models. And what you find is that no prophets, or I should say, you find many prophets who were tested with a family member who either disbelieved in them or were disobedient to them. The wife of Lut alayhi salam disbelieved in him. The wife of Nuh alayhi salam disbelieved in him. The son of Nuh disbelieved in him. The children of Yaqub we know what they did. They tossed Yusuf alayhi salam into a well and they made problems for his father. But no prophet, as far as I know, ever disowned their child. Even when their child was a disbeliever, they never disowned their child. They never cut off relationships with their child. Nuh saw his child drown, which tells us what? He maintained that relationship with his children. Yaqub alayhi salam, for 40 years, he had difficulty with his children, 40 years, never broke relationships with them. Yes, we need to be firm. Our children need to know what is wrong is wrong. What is haram until the day of judgment. But at the same time, we need the patience and the wisdom to be able to be there for our children, to help them, inshallah, get out of their situation. And again, 40 years, the children of Yaqub alayhi salam were giving Yaqub problems. And it took 40 years until they said, as Allah shows us in the end of Surah Yusuf alayhi salam, 40 years until they repented and they admitted wrong. And so let it take as much time as needed. Do not disown your children. Rather, help them through it. And there are some resources that we can use to help those struggling with it, or for anyone who is struggling with it, who's hearing this khutbah, there are some resources for you to help you through your struggles. One is A Way Beyond the Rainbow. It's called A Way Beyond the Rainbow. It's a podcast by a Muslim brother, Wahid Jensen, who he himself had to go through this struggle of same sex attraction. And so he talks to Muslims struggling with this. He can see eye to eye with them and helps them get through it as Muslims in accordance to our Islamic values. There's also a forum called straightstruggle.com, where Muslims struggling with this come together and they discuss and they support each other in maintaining their Islam and getting through their struggle. There are enough stories from within the Muslim community of people who either fell into homosexuality or were struggling with it and were able to overcome it. And it is important that you, as parents, make sure that your children know what they go through in terms of haram is a struggle. And it's a struggle that should be seen like someone who's addicted to drugs, or someone addicted to alcohol, or someone addicted to dating or fornication, if that's even an addiction, and that you can get through it. It's not going to kill you, it's not going to overpower you, but this responsibility has been put on your shoulders, and you can get through it. And we're here to help. Parents, take this seriously. I have given you a few tools that you can use to help balance the mindset of your children, have that conversation with them. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and to protect our families from what they do. Allahumma aghfir lil muslimin wal muslimat wal mu'minin wal mu'minat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat innaka sami'un qareebun mujibud da'awat ya rabbil alameen. We have a few announcements. We continue to encourage our audience and our members to continue to wear their masks while in the masjid. COVID numbers are surging, and we ask Allah to protect us. Inshallah, I will be starting a new monthly class called the Muslim Family. Our first one will be next Friday, June 24th at 7 p.m. It's mainly catered towards parents. And the theme for next Friday is Guess What Your Kids Are Saying About You, to help parents better understand and see eye to eye to their children. Again, that's next Friday at 7 p.m. Support, there's a bake sale going on outside. It is hosted by Celebrate Mercy, and the proceeds will go to help the families of the victims of the Texas school shooting. There's a Quran program tonight at 4:30 for the kids, and youth group tonight at 7 p.m. Welcome as Salah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
So, استقيموا, make sure your line is straight. fill in any gaps. Do not start a new row until the one in front of you is complete. Remember that perfecting our lines is part of perfecting Salah. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حميده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حميده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.